chunk, I open up, I sold my soul a good price.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Nerd Talk podcast brought to you by thedigitalworm.com. I'm your host Matt. I'm here with my good buddy and co-host John. John, say hello.
Oh.
So this is our very special Valentine's Day episode. So if you see John on Tinder, make sure to swipe right or swipe left or whichever one is the good one. I'm not really sure.
I'm pretty sure the one that you don't have to date me is the good one.
So this show is on Valentine's Day. We are recording on February the 14th. There is nothing Valentine's related. We're getting back to our regularly scheduled podcast. Last week we did a special Batman episode, and you can check that out on YouTube. This week we're getting back to just picking 10 topics we found in the news, and then we just discuss them. They're the coolest, not the coolest, but the most interesting things that we found in nerd culture throughout the week. So we're going to go ahead and get started with our first topic of today. This is something we reported on a couple weeks ago. As far as Lyft there was it a lawsuit, John? Was it like an actual lawsuit?
Not a class action lawsuit, but just from the company itself trying to stop that law from happening.
Yeah, so they're trying to bring in, because New York City now has a minimum wage of $15 an hour, and Lyft drivers and other ride-sharing drivers weren't hitting that. So there was this law coming into place, and Lyft tried to sue to stop it, and they have apparently settled, which is good news for drivers. They're now going to make $15 an hour plus $2.22 to cover payroll taxes and paid time off. This is going to equal just under $10,000 a year as far as a pay bump for ride-sharing drivers, and I think this is awesome. I'm really happy to see these ride-sharing guys. John and I both take Uber mostly, but it's much more popular in our area. But the Lyft is around, and it's good to see these drivers, being taken care of in a way and making sure they're getting the money they need. Because we've talked before how being in an Uber or any kind of ride-sharing service is a much more pleasant experience than taking a traditional taxi cab. And it's a damn shame that someone's coming to pick you up in a fairly nice vehicle, much nicer than a taxi, and they're only making a hair over $10 an hour. These guys sit around, they wait for the app to give them rides, and there's slow times and there's busy times. But I feel like these independent contractors working for the ride sharing companies are getting what they deserve, and I'm really, really happy to see that Lyft has agreed to handle this properly and like an adult corporation, I guess you could say. John, what did you think about it?
It's interesting that you say independent contractors, because apparently this works a little differently from area to area. So one of the things that's interesting about that specific article, it talks about these folks who are driving for these ride shares being part of a union. Bigger thing in the northern United States, especially the northeastern United States, than they are anywhere else in the country. Most of the time, if Matt and I are in the South, if you're in the South, most of the time, if someone is part of a union, it's because they're a skilled laborer of some sort. They have a trade. They're tradesmen. They've gone through the journeyman process, and they've gotten their training, and they've jumped through a bunch of hoops, and they pay a bunch of extra money, with a very few exceptions. One of which being the Kroger Corporation, which I believe is the largest supermarket chain in the country. If you look at all their subsidiaries and such, they are unionized as well. So that's not necessarily a skilled trade organization. That is grocers.
I know,
which there's a lot of different types of jobs, and so these folks are actually part of apparently in New York City, they're part of a machinist union, which I think is an interesting thing. I'm not sure how that happened. I'd have to look into it. So, we say contractor, and they are technically still contractors. They are not regular employees, but because in those places especially in the Northeast, they have the protection of unions to treatment, because if you are a contractor, minimum wage laws typically don't apply to you,
That's true.
because your time is not being valued and evaluated in the same method as a traditional employee.
You're typically paid by the task or the job, not by the hour.
Right. So I'm assuming that where this complexity comes from is the fact that they have unionized drivers. So that's completely interesting to me.
It is. It's a very interesting situation, definitely. But yeah, anything to keep these guys on the road and driving, I'm pretty happy with, because I took quite a few Ubers this weekend, or maybe not this. Maybe it was the weekend before. I can't remember, but had a very, very good experience. Like, I always have interesting conversations every time I'm in one of these vehicles.
Oh, definitely. I average, I believe at this point, I'm averaging 5 Uber trips a week.
How are those points working out for you?
I'm about a quarter of the way. I've been on the rewards program for, I believe, 7 days now. I believe that started last week for me on Thursday. I believe I'm a quarter of the way to the 2,500 points it takes to get to platinum. Platinum is where things get interesting. With gold, that's the second tier. Everybody starts at, I think they just call it basic. Then you earn up to gold, which gives you the ability to occasionally have $5 off a ride or off food. Once you hit platinum, you can select a route and you never get spiked on price. You know, the price spikes on that route, and also will occasionally give you $5 towards a, I'm not sure how many points it takes to get from platinum to diamond, but once you unlock diamond, there actually is a class of select that is a different rate than the two you typically see, and sometimes can be different vehicles depending on who's driving. They have to have drivers available for that tier for it to be open, of course. And I think that very few vehicles probably qualify for it. But it's another option if you've got a date or something, you know, is different is going on and you want something interesting. Work is the set of point value, like from gold to platinum, is 200, 2,500. So each time you order food delivery, it's 1 point per dollar. A regular ride is 2 points per dollar, and the Uber X, which is always at least an SUV, if not better, I believe is 3 points per dollar.
That's not a bad deal.
No, as long as you're doing a fairly amount of forward progress, get your tiers, and February to August is the time frame to hit that 2,500 points, which I actually expect to hit that threshold probably 2 months into it.
Nice.
Not too bad, I think. And at that point, I will have earned, I believe, 5 instances of $5 off a ride. And that does add up.
Oh, for sure. For sure. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic. And I found a couple articles this week that were about climate change or directly related to climate change. The first headline from Engadget said insects could be extinct within a century, scientists say. And it went on to talk about, just everything that can happen if these if these insects die off. And to be perfectly honest, I have seen it. They said that this has started with butterflies and moths, were the species that were hardest hit by the decline thus far. And I remember as a kid, I saw a ton of butterflies. Just, I've lived in the South all my life, and butterflies were a thing, And over the last 20, 25 years, I've noticed a very sharp decline in how many butterflies I've seen. John, have you noticed a decline in any insects that you've seen personally?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm not seeing less of, and it's mosquitoes, and that's a shame, in my opinion. It's a real frustration, honestly. But realistically, man, as I moved around so much as a kid, and because I'm not from Virginia, the ecosystem between the middle of and coastal North Carolina and the mountains of Virginia would be different, but they honestly are very, very different. Butterflies were not a thing you saw a ton of where the places that I grew up. Thing you saw a ton of where I was growing up, and I see some in this part of Virginia, but not being from here, I don't know what's normal for this region. I definitely have seen, I really don't know, man. Honestly, I'm not sure what's normal here.
Yeah, it's the malls. I lived in a very old house, so I haven't really noticed any decline in malls. They were just all over the damn place, especially in those muggy summer days. It's kind of the same thing with mosquitoes. The more humid and the hotter it is outside, it seems like the more mosquitoes there are. And those things are just brutal. So yeah, I haven't seen any decline, as you mentioned, of mosquitoes. They seem to be all over the place. But I personally have seen a decline in the butterfly population, which I think is a problem. We rely on insects to cross-pollinate plants. They're essential in helping us grow food. Basically, is what I'm getting at here. And without them, we're gonna have a very serious problem on our hands. And they're saying that within the next century, we're gonna see a massive decline. And it's definitely time to get our butts in gear here and put in serious effort to reverse some of the climate change we've seen thus far. And the second article I saw was about polar bears. According to this article I found on The Verge, polar bears, at least 50 of them have been seen in this village. It's a remote village in this Russian archipelago. Did I say that word right?
Close enough.
I think I did. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's right. It's freaking a lot of people out because they kind of just invaded. And these polar bears, they clearly don't really know what's going on, but they know something's fucked up in their environment because they're kind of like fleeing something. And I don't think there's been any serious bear attacks, but it's been 50 polar bears swarming this community, so eventually something's gonna happen. And I don't know, John, what is your thought on this polar bear invasion in this small Russian town? I think it's a pretty clear sign that something's going on as far as climate change, right? Along with
realistically, if there's such a thing as a natural reason to move from wherever you live, probably an invasion of bears would be a pretty good start. Bears are pretty well known to be complete assholes. The track record of bears here in America stealing picnic baskets and ruining picnics for people is well known and documented through the Hanna-Barbera documentary series from the 60s. I think that any situation where my region was being inundated by bear attacks, I would move the fuck away as soon as possible. Equally as scary as, in my opinion, the grizzly bear, due to their penchant for stealing Coca-Colas.
They are really bad about that, yeah. But this is definitely climate change related, right? Why else would 50 bears just roll up into town?
There are less ice islands in the northern oceans and seas, which is typically where these animals have had their best hunting grounds. Things are changing about the it is shaped basically, and that's going to change where a lot of animals end up. That's a natural. Realistically, this is yet another proof of how easy we have it here in North America, the only continent where the entire continent's not trying to kill you.
I mean, this one, I don't know. Like at first, I thought this was just a clickbaity title, but then I saw some of the Twitter postings of images and videos. Yeah, it really blew my mind. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like when these animals like are that hard up for hunting and food and just in general bear lifestyle to where they actually want to be around humans and are trashed, then there's definitely an issue we need to address. Moving on here to something a little more uplifting. I thought this headline was really cool. This article is really cool. What's going on in the article is super cool. Tokyo will achieve its goal of making 2020 Olympic medals from e-waste. And what they're making their medals from are smartphones, laptops, and other gadgets that have been thrown away. I don't know if these items were donated or if they had people actually going out and getting the trash. I'm not really sure. It just says it was collected, and it was $3 million worth of medals they've been able to make so far, which is really awesome. I mean, they collected 2,700 kilograms of bronze, 30.3 kilograms of gold, and 4,100 kilograms of silver, which is pretty impressive that they were able to get all this out of these gadgets. Probably created some jobs. Pretty sweet. John, what did you think of this article? I thought this was probably one of the coolest things I've read in a while.
Yeah, I'm not surprised this is a direction that the Olympics is going with this type of stuff. That's an organization that tends to be more forward thinking on lots of things when they try to be, at least I think, barring a few of the places that have been allowed to host the Olympics using maybe some of the wrong, some bad labor practice in building the stadiums, but that is not necessarily on the Olympics themselves. That's just the places that time. I think that where they got all the materials from, I think a lot of people probably don't realize that precious metals and materials are used in making technological devices. There's gold filament, copper filament in basically anything that's got technology in it, because it's a conductor.
Right. And I remember reading several years ago, before I was really at all interested in the things I'm interested in now, about how we're mining resources for these gadgets, and we're running out of resources pretty quickly. And like the article is essentially like, what are we going to make phones and laptops and computers out of when we are out of these resources? Some of these metals we don't have reserves of in the world, that with the rate of consumption as far as computers and other gadgets go, like we're going to run out much faster than we think we are. Next topic. Amazon is reportedly using drivers' tips for their base pay. John, how much have we been seeing about Amazon lately? We've seen probably half a dozen articles over the last couple of months about some of their labor practices, some of their business practices in general, as far as they treat employees. And every time I see something, it's a negative. Have you seen anything positive lately?
No, not really. There's a lot to unpack in this story, though. For one thing, before this, did you know what Amazon Flex was?
I did not.
Right. So I'm assuming that this is a pilot program of some sort, and I'm assuming that it's only in select cities that are larger than the city that we happen to live in.
Yeah, I got that impression as well.
What it seems to be is distribution centers that are to certain urban or metropolitan areas. They're offering delivery of select items to places, to locations within those areas, kind of as a way of just not having to go beyond for a pillow or something. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it seems to be doing as far as why the service exists. They're calling it Amazon Flex. Don't really understand why they would use that name. I don't think it's very good, but these things do change programs for companies. Now, if you notice on the surface of it that Amazon is as a digital tip for a driver and factoring it into their algorithm for what they're paying them per hour to make sure they get between at least $18 to $22 an hour. But if you'll notice, both of the stated examples are people themselves and delivering the items to themselves or their own family members, and they put a digital tip in to pump their own numbers for tips. What Amazon is really doing there is they're looking at the name and address on those orders, realizing that these people are gaming their system by to deliver things to their own families and saying, I don't think so.
I get the impression that these guys were tipping themselves just to see if they would actually get the tip. I didn't get the impression that they were trying to game anything.
How is getting paid a wage in your own home not gaming a system?
I feel like they were, at least the impression that I got was that they were already suspecting Amazon of not paying them tips, and so they just delivered something to themselves, tipped themselves, just to see if that was true. Like, I don't think they were intentionally trying to game anything here. But I could be wrong. I mean, I realize it's pretty abnormal for me to try to look at things positively. but I didn't see any malicious intent, at least not the way the writer wrote the article. But like I said, definitely could be wrong here. But I mean, it makes you think, like, I mean, given everything negative we've heard about Amazon over the last several months and how they treat employees and some of their business practices, it made me think maybe Amazon is trying to screw over these people, which is kind of shitty. So, I mean, I hope Amazon, Amazon is a massive corporation at this point, and things are going to slide through the cracks, and this could just be, some sort of clerical error. It could be exactly what you said, where Amazon's saying that they're delivering to themselves and tipping themselves, and they're like, I don't think so, pal. Yeah. I mean, it could easily be that. It could be quite a few things, but given the way this article is written...
It actually can be all of those things, if you think about it. It actually, it actually could all be true.
Sure.
It could be that Amazon's practices are not what they should be, and the people were trying to game the system, and by not being able to, they realized they weren't actually getting paid what they were actually thought they were getting paid.
Yeah. It definitely looks to be a clusterfucky type of situation, but everything I read about Amazon seems clusterfucky, right?
Sure, I 100% agree with that. This does lead into one of my personal philosophies of, if you can tip cash, tip cash. Tip cash, you're helping out the person who's your server / driver / given the thing that you might tip someone for. Number one, they don't have to claim it on their taxes. Number two, their employer, which may not have their best interest at heart, know how much they're really making, which is maybe a positive thing.
I've been wondering about this for a while because GrubHub is probably my favorite app of all time. I love GrubHub. I love having food from all over our small city delivered right to my door, because I'm hungry fairly often. And I typically leave a tip on the app because the first time I ever got GrubHub, I asked the driver, I said, how do you like to have the tip? Do you prefer cash or on the app? And they said on the app. I don't know if they were just in a hurry, like what the deal was, but I've been leaving it on the app ever since. And I don't know. I'm curious as to whether or not my drivers are getting their tips.
My understanding is that yes, they are, but they're also being taxed at that potentially higher rate because the tips are being reported. These companies 100% report everything that comes across their table, just because once you get that big, not doing so is basically death if they ever figure you out.
The tax man does not fuck around at all, and I'm not hating on GrubHub for doing that, but I mean, I just rarely carry cash. It's just
Same.
it's just not.
Who has cash anymore?
I don't know anyone who. I know a couple of guys that carry cash anymore, but they're like they're the super paranoid. The banks are gonna steal my money types.
So conservatives.
No, actually, they're. It's not that they're conservative. They're just tinfoil hats. Like,
Oh, the mentally ill.
I mean, they're relatively sane. I'd say they're as sane as I am, which isn't really saying a whole lot. Actually, it's not really saying much at all. But whatever. Moving on. Found this article on IO9. An Aquaman spinoff is happening without any of Aquaman's stars. This did not surprise me at all. DC is known for being the darker comics as opposed to Marvel. And it looks like they're going to be working on a horror-themed movie focused on the Trench. Now, in the movie, not trying to give away too many spoilers, but there were areas. Reading the comics, John, I'm sure you already know this. Like, the Trench was an area where these beings were no longer really Atlanteans anymore. They had become more like monsters. Is that how it was in the comic?
Yeah. The storyline in the comics of the Trench and Aquaman is one of the few truly classic Aquaman stories. Aquaman's not necessarily been a very well utilized character throughout the years,
Right.
honestly, with DC. There's always been a lot of playing territory there. I think that I hope this movie gets made. I think that it sets an interesting precedent for things within the DC universe to be a very good film as well. I think that it's definitely something that should not be sold short.
No, I mean, I completely agree. I saw this article. I thought it was super interesting. Probably one of the most interesting things that happened in Hollywood this past week. When I watched, because you have not seen Aquaman yet, correct?
Yeah, I'm still a little behind.
All right, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but I thought it was super interesting when they introduced all the kingdoms. That there were a couple of kingdoms there was a lot of mystery surrounding them, and the Trench was one of them. And there wasn't a lot going on in the movie as far as diving into that backstory, and I'm really looking forward to seeing a horror themed way of getting into a story. I feel like there's probably a lot of story here to tell.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good film.
Yeah, it definitely looks pretty solid, and it's Aquaman wasn't that dark movie that you typically see in DC. It just wasn't that kind of story, and I think it's really neat that they're looking to dive into that in a much different way and attack it at a different angle. So pretty exciting stuff here. Definitely looking forward to it. Don't know if James Wan is actually going to be attached. I mean, I'm sure he'll have a producer credit just to get his name on it. Looking at it, doesn't really say a whole lot. It looks like this is really, really early and pre-production, so probably gonna be a while before we hear anything else about it. But I'll definitely be keeping an eye on it for sure. So next up, this is my favorite headline of the week. This company will build secret passageways in your home. I found this on Nerdist. and there was a video with it, and it showed some of the stuff they were doing. Essentially, this company will come in to your home, and they will build secret passageways. They will build like custom like doors, like, you know, where you like go in and like they put these electronic things in a book, so you can like tilt a book and it'll open the bookshelf. Really, really cool. Like this is the kind of shit I've wanted in my own home for ever since I was a kid. John, I don't know if you've ever been into the secret passageways and stuff like that, and the secret rooms, but that's something I've always thought was super neat. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that most people who are into the mysteries when they were younger, or into comic books, and you know, that have those types of ideas. Years ago, me and a couple of friends of mine started looking into figuring out how to do that at a friend's house, and we actually, this is well before easy electronics were a thing. As far as that kind of stuff goes, we actually got as far as design a pulley based mechanism to pull a book out of a bookcase, and the bookcase was actually a door to make a lever engage. It would have worked. We just never got around to installing it in the dude's house. I think that it's a little bit of a niche audience in the fact of, you know, you also have to own your own home to do this.
Right.
And, you know, current generation of people who are in their 20s and 30s, you know, that's not as much of a given as it was.
That's
so fair. Not to put a dark spin on anything at all. I don't mean to do that. I think it's a fucking sweet idea. If I own my own home, as opposed to living in a roommate situation with friends, which I enjoy, and it's not a complaint at all. It's something that I would look into doing myself. I own a home.
So this company is called Creative Home Engineering, and according to the video, this guy's got like a 3-month waiting list as it stands right now, and prices start at $1,600 and go up. You know, obviously it's going to depend on what you want and how much customization they need to do, stuff like that. As a kid, I read a lot of Hardy Boys. I watched a lot of Scooby-Doo. I read a lot of Choose Your Own Adventure. And this is the kind of place where my imagination took me. You know, what if I had these things in my home? What could I do? And what would I keep in these secret locations and stuff like that? Like, and I saw this headline and I was like, there's no way this is real. So I clicked on it, watched the video, and it was like I was a kid again. Like, I got to fantasize about that for a little while, like, and how awesome it would be to have that. And John, you're right. Like, this is clearly something for people who got money to burn. Not everybody does. But man, did it just took me back. And I watched this video a couple of times, honestly, and I just kept smiling and thinking about it. And it made me really, really happy for a few minutes to know that, you know, somebody out there was doing something this cool. I love it. So now, unfortunately, we're going to move on to something that it's going to make a lot of people sad. I have never used Spotify, the free version. I've been using the premium version ever since the app came out, and I heard about it because I need music in my life, and Spotify is the most convenient way to do that. So I just immediately said, sure, here's my $10, take my money. I do know a lot of people who use the free version, and now, according to this headline and this article I found on TechCrunch, Spotify will now suspend or terminate accounts it finds are using ad blockers. I thought this was interesting. A lot of reasons because of John, my co-host. John loves ad blockers and employs them wherever he can, and for good reason, because he doesn't want to see ads. However, it's one of the ways Spotify makes money from their free service is by forcing you to deal with those ads. And I think it's really unfortunate they're taking this route, honestly, by threatening to get rid of accounts and ban people who are using ad blockers. I mean, there's so many people who are like John these days that use ad blockers online to not have to view this crap they don't want to see. And I don't think it's going to hurt them a lot because the vast majority of their income comes from the premium subscribers like myself. Let's see here. It had their numbers here somewhere.
I think everyone I know who uses Spotify is actually a premium user. I don't think I know anyone who is just a casual user. Anyone who would have used it for that either uses YouTube or Pandora. I have Spotify is even bothering to utilize ads in today's current online climate. It doesn't seem worthwhile at all.
Yeah, according to this article, there are 96 million paid subscribers, and it makes up 88% of their revenue.
Yeah, see, that's almost 90%. Like realistically, like I'm a little surprised that they bothered to pay a team of people to come up with something that will ban people for using ad blocker.
Well, that
seems like it was probably less than just not doing ads.
That's kind of the point I'm trying to make here. It makes them look like a bit of an asshole, right? Like it's not like they're hard up for cash. It looks like they're bringing in close to $1 billion in revenue.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that being said, I think as a company, if you use ads at all, you're required to care if someone has ad block. It's one of those like almost this like philosophical line in the sand. It's like you just if this then that, it has to be.
Well, I suppose that's fair, but on the other hand, they don't need the money, and this is making them look like a douchebag corporation. And there have been some issues. We talked a few weeks ago, I believe, about Taylor Swift temporarily pulling her library off of the platform.
True.
They've had some issues in the past, and no corporation wants to look like the bad guy, right? Not if they're trying to make money. I mean, obviously, once you get to Amazon status, you can just not give a fuck and you can do whatever you want. But I don't think Spotify is there yet. And I think this is, with such a small piece of the pie at risk here from these ad blockers, like, I feel like this was just a douchebag thing to do. Like, I think it's bad publicity, and it's not going to go the way they want it to go. I think the people who are using ad blockers and using their free service are likely just going to move to another service.
Absolutely. Like YouTube, which doesn't care if you use an ad blocker at all.
Right.
Because they have YouTube Red now, which is making ridiculous amounts of money for them.
Really?
Their subscription service is more popular than I ever expected, for sure.
I had no idea. I know they were getting rid of their premium subscription service. Is it YouTube Red? They're getting rid of something.
I don't think it's Red. The few things that I've read seem to say that they're doing that's doing really well. Of course, my information is a couple months old, so things change so fast.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about YouTube in a while. Well, not related to that. I've seen plenty of YouTube stuff.
Yeah, but usually it's about their content producers being dumpster fires, right?
Right. Like, it's. I know they're cutting down on the conspiracy videos. Like, as far as their algorithm is going to start doing some stuff with that. And there was recently a guy that was getting teenage girls to send him nudes to prove they were his biggest fans, and like just kind of fucked up shit like that.
That guy needs to go to jail.
He needs to, yeah. He definitely 100% needs to go to jail.
That actually makes you a sexual predator. That has nothing to do with being a bad content producer.
No, I mean, I completely agree. I'm just saying this is the stuff I've seen about YouTube lately.
I've not heard about that person. I do know that they are from things like Facebook, things like Twitter, in which they are demonetizing people who are making assertions that are clearly false. And that's, I think, where more of the conspiracy theory people come in. as a lot of the things that a lot of those folks say are pretty much provably false.
Right.
You can't. This goes into the argument of, is the internet a utility or is it a luxury? You can say whatever the fuck you want. There's no real consequences, and people believing a lot of things that aren't true. Cue the anti-vaxxer movement. If it's utility, then right to use it in a way that can be reasonably guaranteed that the information that they're being presented as being true is in fact true. Reasonable content providers are leaning towards, that's where I lean myself, is it is a utility. It is something that I would not go so far as to say it's a basic human right to use the internet, but it is definitely something that the internet, you have the right to not be lied to by someone who seems to be an authority on something.
I completely agree. And
you get the anti-vaxxer movement when that happens. You get MAGA people when that happens. You get veiled racism that is disguised as social science.
Yeah,
and it's not good for anyone.
And when you sign up for that YouTube account, you start creating, you agree to their terms of service. And as a content creator, you need to pay attention to occasional changes in those terms of service. And I mean, whether you believe that your conspiracy theories are really true doesn't really matter. You have to play by the rules, and if you don't play by the rules, they're going to get rid of your channel, and that's going to be that. I mean, they really don't mess around when they decide to go on a witch hunt, whether it's legit or not. They do not play around. They go after people. They go after everybody who's breaking the rules, and they clean house when it comes to that. And there have definitely been some content creators caught in the crossfire of that. But for the most part, they are usually pretty good about getting rid of the bad seeds. And I'm not super disappointed or anything with what YouTube has been doing lately as far as dealing with content creators, especially ones creating potentially harmful content. But I definitely think they need to approach it in a certain way. And I think right now they're doing an okay job. I'm not really complaining how YouTube does anything. I mean, they're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. It's fine. As long as they fix it, and from what I can tell, they usually will.
And some platforms are not the best about as to why people are being deplatformed. Really being the biggest offender in that specific. Sometimes it's very obvious, like someone is literally just trying to convince people to be white supremacists. They're probably going to nuke your account. Some of it is less obvious, and when you ask the folks at Twitter, why did you suspend my account? Why don't I get to do this anymore? They're actually not required to answer you. And a lot of times, from what I have heard, I don't know if it's true, but a lot of times, from what I have heard, they don't answer you. You never get a real answer, and that I think is a little off-putting. I think that there does need to be transparency going in both directions on it.
Yeah, that's really well said, John.
Everyone could do a little bit better. Is there needs to be transparency in every aspect of this.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You really hit the nail on the head there. Good job, thank you. So, moving on to our next topic of today. Sandwich chain Jimmy John's is revolting against Uber Eats and other food delivery apps. As I stated earlier, I'm a big GrubHub fan, and I think this is a mistake on Jimmy John's part. Like, I think early on, right now, we're seeing some friction. Like, there's some people who aren't happy with GrubHub. There's some people that don't like food delivery apps in general because of the markup. We're seeing a lot of things here, but the fact is I think these are the future. Like, I don't think that these apps are going away anytime soon. I think companies are pretty soon going to realize how much they end up saving on labor by not having their own delivery people and having someone like GrubHub delivered for them. I'm not exactly sure how much money it's gonna like. I'm not a finance guy. Like, I don't know business finance. Like, I'm not sure how much money they're gonna save or anything like that. But I firmly believe that these business models of these food delivery apps are good for the restaurant and the consumer. At least they will be in the long run once the restaurants figure out how to make a profit, and you best believe they will figure out a way to make a profit off of it. That's how these restaurants have been around forever. But in the short term, I think Jimmy John's has a pretty solid marketing scheme as far as being resistant to these apps. These apps have become a billion-dollar industry, so in the long run, probably going to hurt more than help, but in the short run, pretty good little marketing scheme they got going on. John, what do you think about it?
I've got a few thoughts. First of all, just so that there's no ambiguity on my position on Jimmy John's, fuck Jimmy John's in particular. Let me give you a reason. Reason number one, their bread, not very good. If you're going to make a sandwich company, if you're going to be sandwiches and that's all you do, and you don't have bread that can offer something that other places can't, what are you even doing? We'll go to Jimmy John's, other than it's convenient for them in some way. Specifically, if you do want a sandwich, and I like a sub. I do like a sub. I like an Italian sub. A good Italian sub is a beautiful thing, as far as it goes.
It shouldn't fucking have mayonnaise on it. I know that.
That's okay. We can agree to disagree.
Sorry, I hate mayonnaise.
One of the few things mayonnaise is good for, in my opinion, is homemade hamburger with a homemade hamburger patty. You put mayonnaise on it. And sub, a thin layer of mayonnaise, I think, is a good thing to offset the rest of the flavors. You get a little bit of spice if you have good pepperoni, good salami on that Italian sub. So, thin layer of mayonnaise never hurt nobody. Unless you have an egg allergy, then, well, you'd be miserable. But that's beyond the point. Second reason, like you, I like some delivered food. A couple of months ago, the only place where you could get a sub delivered to you in Roanoke, which is where Matt and I both live, would have been Jimmy John's. So I screw it. An okay sandwich is better than no sandwich at this point. I really just want a sub. Called up Jimmy John's and I said, listen, I would like a sub delivered to my house. They have a very strict 1 mile radius for delivery. House is 1.01 miles away from the nearest Jimmy John's. They would not deliver me a sandwich.
Wait, they have a 1 mile radius? That's it?
Strict 1 mile radius.
Okay.
1 miles away from the nearest Jimmy John's. They would not deliver to my home. I said 0.01 miles is a block. How about you deliver it from my house, and I will stand on the corner, and you can throw the sandwich out of the car, and I will catch it. They would not do that. Strikes and you're out, Jimmy John's. Fuck you.
I went to Jimmy John's down on 460 one time, and I do not assume mayonnaise comes on any sandwich that is Italian. I just don't assume that. And I got a very nice Italian sub. It had mayonnaise all fucking over it. It was gross. I hated it. I have not been back to Jimmy John's since.
Well, my opinion is, if you're in a restaurant, if you are a restaurant, comes with gravy, which makes it a certain type of sandwich. Open space sandwiches have gravy on them. That's something that's going to be on your sandwich. But I don't know that any wet condiment should be included on a sandwich if someone doesn't ask for it.
Well, I think it should be
offered to you. I think that you should have the option. What condiments would you like on your sandwich? And then if you want the mayonnaise or the mustard, or if you're a complete barbarian and want ketchup on a sandwich for reasons I'll never understand, then sure. They put it on there for you, like reasonable humans. But I don't know that condiments should be on any.
Yeah, I definitely like the Subway business model the most, I think, as far as how they make your sandwich.
And most places that are like that do that as well. I'm not sure if you've ever been to a Which or perhaps a Roly Poly, which is basically these places, but with instead of bread. You always have this assembly line.
Yeah, I've never actually been to any of those places. I usually just hit Subway when I want a sandwich because there's one like 1 block away, and it's really easy for me to just go over there. The only time I'm gonna eat Jimmy John's, and I think Which is on GrubHub. I have never actually eaten there.
It is. If you like subs at all, it's a suggestion I would make, and that actually is a chain. So other people in other places may also have Which in their town. I definitely give those guys.
Yeah, I will definitely have to check that out. But when I saw this article, the first thing I thought was fuck Jimmy John's because of the one time I went there and they put mayonnaise on my sandwich, and it really pissed me off because I was like, who puts mayonnaise on an Italian sandwich? Like, it shouldn't even be a thing. I mean, they didn't just put mayonnaise on the sandwich. I mean, it was fucking on the sandwich, dude. Like, I was like, there's like a half a jar of mayonnaise on this motherfucker. Like, I can't even eat it. And I paid like $15 for it. Jimmy John's is not cheap.
No, they definitely are not. And they clearly think they're people.
Like, honestly, if the tables in that joint weren't screwed down, I would flip that shit over with the sandwich on top and just walked out. So yeah, if they don't want to be on, Jimmy John's doesn't want to be on Grubhub or Uber Eats, that's fine. Fuck off. There's plenty of places that are on those apps that are delicious. And I will order shit from them all the time. I mean, Taco Bell's running free delivery right now, bro.
I did read about that. I know that there are a lot of people that are very happy about that. I think that, I personally am not a Taco Bell fan. I think that their food is tasteless and bland. But I know a lot of people really enjoy it, especially people of the stoner variety. And I feel like they are doing a community service by offering delivery without a fee to keep these stone motherfuckers off my roads.
I 100% agree. It's one of the things I love most about the app is that it allows you to get as fucked up as you want to get in the comfort and privacy of your own home. And then you don't have to go and drive around to get food. You just have to go drive around to get more booze or drugs. So it's helping. Now, if they add booze and drugs to these delivery apps, the stoners are going to be just super happy and poor from all the delivery fees.
The people that would never leave their houses again.
I mean, I'd be one of them probably. I mean,
60% of the people that most people know would never leave their houses again.
If they put, like, 7-Eleven is already on some of those delivery apps, but if it gets to the point where you can actually have beer delivered to your home through that app, then yeah. I mean, why would I leave? I can get a sandwich and beer. Why do I need to go anywhere?
Basic human interaction.
Thank you for my food. Have a nice day. That's a basic human interaction. Thanks for bringing me some beer, bro. Just did me a solid. Take care. Apex Legends has hit 25 million total players. This makes me very, very happy. I have been waiting for a Fortnite killer for a long time. I feel like this game has the potential to do that. I've been paying very careful attention on Twitch lately as far as numbers go to see how they're comparing. I played it once. I've been taking a class online, so I haven't been playing any video games. Like, every bit of my downtime where I would be playing video games has been spent trying to get this class done so I can do stuff. But once it's over, I'm going to go back to playing this game quite a bit. It's free to play. It's kind of like a combination of Fortnite and Call of Duty, as well as some other games like Overwatch. Like, it's a mashup of like the best parts of every popular game that has come out in the last 5 years, which probably explains why it's so popular. 25 million players in your first week is pretty good. And as far as Twitch goes, I'm seeing Twitch numbers are under 100,000 for the first time in a long time. And there's anywhere between 200 and 400,000 people watching Apex Legends. All the major streamers are playing Apex Legends right now. I think this has potential to be a Fortnite killer. And by Fortnite killer, is it going to kill the game? No, but is it going to take over as the #1 game in the world? It looks like it has the potential to do that for sure. And they're going to be coming out with some more competitive stuff at the beginning of the month, as well as some other fun things. It looks like they have a 10-year plan for this game, which is awesome, that they have the foresight to be able to create a base game and then have a solid 10-year plan to be able to improve it. John, I know you're not huge into these types of games, but do you have any thoughts on this at all?
Well, I don't know so much about Fortnite Killer. Realistically, I looked at the article on this. Let's check out a couple other things. I actually looked at some screenshots. I personally don't see where the exploitation of people of color is going to come from on this one. And until they integrate that, I'm pretty sure Fortnite's still going to be what it is.
Well, you mean stealing people's dances?
That'd be the one, yeah.
Yeah.
Still a little angry about that.
Well, I think it seems like the most press is coming from Twitch, really. I mean, Ninja is playing this game. Tim the Tatman is playing this game. Shroud is playing this game.
Yeah, people love that Ninja dude, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, every top streamer is playing this game right now. I mean, there was one day.
I'm sure it's fine. That was really more of a backhanded thing against people who play Fortnite.
Well, I don't blame people for playing Fortnite. It's not the.
Oh, I do. I'm actually working on this conspiracy theory. Have I told you about this yet, Matt?
I do not believe you have. No.
Follow me if you can. I'm fairly sure Fortnite players are actually the people that voted Donald Trump into office.
Well, that's impossible because the majority of Fortnite players are like 7.5.
Do you really think the GOP is above registering 7-year-olds to vote, dude?
No, I don't.
Do you really think? Now think about it. These are the people that have erected statues to Civil War, slave owning. Let me get that. Where's my tinfoil hat? I lost my tinfoil hat. On my tinfoil hat. Where was I? Statues of people in the South.
So where's it going now? So statues of people in the South related to Fortnite.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you. Time will tell. Time will tell.
I hope this game overtakes Fortnite as the #1 game, honestly. Because
Me too.
I've only played it a couple of times. I played it once and I had every intention of going back and playing more. But then I started working on this course. And I was just like, shit, I got to get this thing done before I go back to this game. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. As someone who has played Overwatch, someone who has played Call of Duty, I never played Fortnite. But as someone who has played some of those other games that they took some inspiration from, I think it's better. And it's free. Like, I'm not one of those people that goes and spends a bunch of money on cosmetics. That's not what I do. But as long as they're going to keep throwing out, updates to this free game, and millions of people are playing it and it's fun, then why wouldn't I? Fortnite is clearly its closest competitor, because no one's paying to play Overwatch anymore. People buy Call of Duty because a new one comes out every year. They play it for 2 months, they get bored, they move on to something else. So the player base shrinks from the time it goes out until by the time the new one's about to come out, no one's playing Call of Duty anymore. That's just how their season works for that. I feel like this game is going to be something that's going to get played a lot. And they're doing seasons that go like quarterly, I believe. It looks like they have some special events and other stuff planned. Like, they're on the right track to be the #1 game for a while. I'm looking forward to it because I want to play games with other adults. Like, I don't particularly want to hang out with a bunch of 6-year-olds on Discord and hearing all the crazy stupid shit that comes out of their mouths. Like, I don't know if have you ever heard about all the stuff. Like, I'm sure you're aware of how toxic some of these gaming communities can be, John. But have you ever like heard any recordings of some of the shit these little kids say? Like, it's absurd.
I've had enough gamer friends complain to me about playing with young people to that I definitely know what you're talking about. And I definitely have had people tell me very, unironically that they are a fan of the fact that Fortnite exists because their experiences playing other games are getting better. To do with 12-year-olds, cursing them out and talking about fucking their moms.
Yeah.
Like, which is really just opens up a whole nother door of what the fuck, how are these people being raised?
I think it's mostly an environmental thing, to be honest. I think they hear their little friends. All it takes is one little asshole to be friends with 6 other kids and turn all of them into little assholes, and then those 6 little assholes go out and turn all their 5 or 6 friends into little assholes, and before you know it, everyone's talking about fucking everybody else's mom. Everyone's saying fuck you. Everyone's doing like crazy shit, and I feel like this game is a much more adult themed game, and so I'm more than happy with all the underagers sticking with Fortnite and being little assholes on that platform.
Fair enough.
So our last topic of the day, when I say we, I mean me. I love streamer wars. I love reading about all the information about all the new streaming services coming out, what they're gonna do, how they're gonna do it. And I also like reading the bullshit. And I found one very, 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 very bullshit article this week. The headline read, Hulu says they're open to reviving canceled MCU Netflix shows. No, they are not. No, they are not. This is bullshit. Like, I think if these shows do ever come back onto a platform such as Hulu or Disney Plus, it's going to be much, much different than what we've seen so far. It's going to have a different cast, etc. I feel like this is blowing smoke. This is clearly an attempt to try and get subscribers away from Netflix and onto Hulu. I feel like this is an empty promise. I think there are some, as we saw this week, there are some Marvel projects in the works for Hulu. It's not this. John, what did you think about this? I found like it's not that this was clickbaity. The writer clearly was like looking for a silver lining of hope to be able to see these iconic characters in action again. But it is bullshit, right? Like I'm 100% convinced that it was total horseshit, and this was just trying to steal Netflix viewers and subscribers, which I think we're going to see a lot more of. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, the implication of what Hulu would do if they were offered those characters, I think that as well as I do that it's going to come on it. Content producer would be insane not to jump on something like that, but that's never going to happen. You're 100% right about that. I think that going forward, more and more, the only way you're going to get to see anything that's owned by Disney is going to be subscribing to their premium service. There's entirely too many of these things popping up. Only so many of them can succeed. People are going to start asking themselves, why not just go back to cable? And I think a fair number. I will never be one of them. I'm never doing that.
Me either.
Format of consumption of entertainment that works with the type of life that I have. I don't have that kind of time. But for the people that do have that kind of time and don't mind serialized content, and a lot of these people who find things like Netflix and Hulu to be novel and don't mind 2 subscription fees a month, or you can per year, sure, but realistically, how many people other than people who are trying to write content about content are going to be like, yeah, I'll subscribe to 6 different fucking streaming services, and I guess I'll just fucking eat a gun while I'm at it. I mean, it's completely ridiculous.
I think there's people who are plenty crazy enough to go after all of these streaming services. I don't know.
Sure, maybe at first, but after a couple of months and the novelty wears off, and you realize that you're only going to have 1 or 2 things that you're ever truly interested in. Nah, man, I don't see this continuing.
Do you think
of the 6 that are about to be launched in the next 6 months, I think 1 to maybe 2 of them will survive more than a year.
I think I see it going longer than that. I see this war lasting 2 to 3 years, to be honest with you, which is probably going to be great for consumers until the dust settles, and then Netflix will undoubtedly win this war and start jacking up their prices some more. That's my theory. But I
kind of see a world where Disney just says fuck it and just buys Netflix.
That's interesting. I was thinking less buy it and more some sort of partnership, like it would become Netflix Disney or Disney Netflix or something like that, where it would basically be Disney Plus's service attached to Netflix, and you would pay like an extra like $3 to $4 a month for that Disney Plus.
I honestly believe that the only reason that hasn't already happened is because that toes the line on the old antitrust.
Yeah, but
how much bigger can Disney get before people start trying to scream monopoly? Before Time Warner says these folks have monopoly, government, you have to step in and break this up a couple of times. There's only so much. You can only control so much of a specific type of thing before competition becomes unreasonable.
Right.
And one of the few things that the U.S. government will regulate, which we've got some pretty fucked priorities as a country. If you really think about what that means, we won't regulate, fracking or the environment, but be too big. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something we need to work on for sure. We'll see how that goes in 2020, I guess. Before we slide into the next related article I found, I think it's a good time to mention 2 great shows coming out. What do you think, John? Doom Patrol is coming out tomorrow. And The Umbrella Academy is coming out on Netflix tomorrow. I think these are both...
I will note one thing about Doom Patrol is they're doing it the way they did Titans. So they're going to release weekly. Oh,
God, that's such horse shit.
Once it...
I hate it when they fucking do that, man.
I do. Now they're going to do the same thing with what they did with Titans, in that once it releases, it's there forever. It's not going to be like Hulu was, where it's just this rotating 5. Once the episodes are there, they're there. But realistically, I'm not sure how big the order is. I don't know if it's 12 episodes or 22 episodes, but we're getting an episode a week.
Ugh. It's so frustrating.
I'm as frustrated as you are, man. I am. I probably will be watching the first one and then wait, because I can't stop myself, which said a lot. Should say a lot about how excited I am about this project, and then I'm going to wait for the rest of the season to drop to watch the rest of it. That's what I plan on doing.
I will likely do the same thing. I don't know. You remember the other week we were talking about, or I was talking about Deadly Class and how I've actually been watching it every week on the website, on the Sci-Fi Channel website, which is super rare. Well, now I watched the first couple episodes, and I went to watch episode 4. No, over the weekend, I guess. I went to watch episode 4, and it tried to make me sign into my cable provider, and it wasn't going to let me.
Oh, yeah. You didn't know about that, huh?
No, and I was just like, well, I guess fuck you guys. Like, you're not going to get any ad revenue off me. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, Like, I'm not gonna get charged an extra cable bill or whatever's going on here, or they're gonna try and make me sign up for some sort of cable TV or something like that. I don't. Either way, I'm not doing it. Catch you on the Netflix, homies. And
is Umbrella Academy, is that a comic book thing? Like, is this an original series by itself?
It's an original Netflix series. I'm not sure if it's comic book related. I will have to get back to you on that. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research. It looks quite good though. I don't know if you've seen the trailer.
I noticed that Netflix put a trailer in my queue to watch, and honestly, their algorithms are so good at this point that anytime that happens, they've been correcting that it's a show I'm interested in. Oh, actually, looking into this, it's the Dark Horse book. So yeah, this is probably gonna be real worthwhile. It's probably gonna be dark as fuck.
It looked super dark. It looks super. These superheroes look like the most dysfunctional family ever, like in almost a realistic kind of way. Like they're so fucked up, I can actually relate because my family's fucked up. But but I mean, all of our families are fucked up, right? I mean, who doesn't have a fucked up family? But yeah, I was like, it actually looks like a real family. They just have abilities. So I'm super excited about that show.
Sounds good, man. Hey, did you see? Maybe it was you that told me. Somebody told me recently that they've optioned Why the Last Man to be a TV show.
I have no idea what that is, so it definitely wasn't me.
And you don't know what that is?
No.
Holy shit, dude! It's a really, really good Vertigo series from the early 2000s. Calamity happens, and every male mammal on Earth dies, except for this dude named Yorick and his monkey alive. So the tension of the book is he's trying to find the scientist who might be able to survive past this, and people are trying to figure out how to live where half the population's gone. This is a sweet comic book. I think it's got a potential to be a very, very fucking good show.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was created by this dude named Brian K. Vaughan, who's written a shit ton of really good comics.
I had a very similar idea for a fiction piece. I never got around to writing it because I stopped writing fiction for the most part, but it was in my queue to be one of the next novels I wrote. But my novel writing days are over.
What do you say now?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know if I have another one in me. I mean, it's fine for when you're unemployed and you got nothing else to do. It's just like, you know what? I'm just going to crank out a novel. And I cranked out 2 novels over the course of a few years. Cranked out millions of words in short stories, novellas, novelettes. And I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of done there. But sliding into our last part of the Streamer Wars article I found for this week. This writer has a theory. It was on We Got This Covered, which is known for a lot of speculation and random theories, some of which doesn't always make a lot of sense. All Arrowverse shows may leave Netflix for Warner Media streaming service. Now, that's probably actually true, honestly. Warner Media is already looking at Netflix as an enemy, right? They're coming out with their own streaming service later this year. It'll be coming out right around the same time Disney Plus is, I believe. And Warner Media has a pretty big chunk of a library. They have a massive library, and that includes all the DC properties, HBO original properties, decades and decades of film. It would make a lot of sense for them to pull these all of their library off of Netflix and bring it onto their own platform.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't realize, I think, is that the CW networks, one of which was the WB, and one of which was UPN, was Paramount's network. So Paramount every 7 or 8 years or so, Paramount almost dies. They sell off a bunch of shit. So they sold off all their TV shit that wasn't Star Trek based to Warner Brothers, and that's when WB and UPN came together to be the CW.
So Warner Brothers owns the CW as well as NBC, right?
They own some cable networks too, don't they?
Yes,
No,
TNT, TBS, those networks.
They own the Turner stuff now?
Yes. Almost 100% sure on that. At least 90% sure, probably. But I'm almost 100% sure on that they own the Turner stuff.
Interesting.
That's they're gonna have a pretty stacked library when they get this platform off the ground.
Sure.
I will likely give this a try for a few months. I need my DC shows, bro. I need them. And,
I guess I am too. If that's where we're gonna have to go to get DC stuff.
And you know what? I don't think it's gonna be a bad deal. Honestly, I think they're gonna have a lot to offer. And plus likely there's going to be a premium package with HBO, so that'll be kind of nice too, because then you'll have The Watchmen. I haven't heard much about that show yet. This is going to be something that's worthwhile. I think at least it'll be worthwhile at least for 2 to 3 months, and then I'll make a decision. I feel like I will have 2 streaming services at some point. It's just a matter of finding out which one I want.
Yeah, I've got 2 currently myself. I got Netflix, and I've got the DC Universe, which I do count.
Sure. Okay, so I think that kind of wraps it up for today, John. Unless you had anything you wanted to add.
Actually, kind of do.
Sure.
I'm not. You may have seen this yesterday. I saw it pretty late yesterday. The Opportunity rover has finally died.
Yeah, I did see that.
Which there's a ridiculous amount of data that we have that we never would have had if we had not sent that up 15 years ago. The original mission of that thing, they were optimistically hoping for 90 days worth of data, and that thing has continuously sent back information over the last 15 years that we're nowhere near where I think we should be currently, but we would be a whole lot we'd be in a whole lot worse place if it was not for that. The last message that the machine sent to us was a little on the eerie side. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, the last piece of data we got from the Mars Opportunity rover, according to 3 or 4 sources that I've seen, was my battery is low and it's getting dark.
Why is that eerie?
How is it not?
Oh, are you saying like
my
as
battery
far
is
as
low and it's getting dark? And it's
like
creepy as shit.
as far as an AI perspective, like it became aware that it was dying?
I don't think it became aware it was dying, but the terminology, the imagination, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah, maybe. Maybe I'm just, I don't know. I did not find that particularly eerie, but I'm not one to, I don't know. That's, you know how I am. I am not going to.
Just think about it, man. Think about the desolation that is Mars. There's nothing there. I think that we as humans have a really hard time getting our head around what it really is, what another planet really is. By virtue of being here, it's that.
You're right. And it's almost sad. I wouldn't say it was eerie, but definitely a little sad.
Sure.
Did you also see where that European startup that was trying to send people to Mars, like it was a for-profit organization, it was trying to start a Mars colony. It recently failed. Finally declared bankruptcy or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite to commercial travel yet, but I think that we should be, honestly. I think that we've got some pretty bad priorities on this planet.
Yeah. Elon Musk claimed that he's going to try to make his voyages to Mars under $100,000. We'll see how that works.
When you live the kind of life that I live, $100,000 and $100 million are not too far from one another, so that's not ever going to affect me. Well,
I mean, this has always been... That's always been a thing with his plan, as people have always criticized him for being like, this is a way out for rich people. This is a way for rich people to escape a dying planet, is basically what they're saying. Rather than staying here and trying to take responsibility and make a difference. And in some ways I can see that. But, rich people are the ones that fucked it up. Why would they stay here and try to make a difference? Given that rich people are the ones who fucked it up, maybe they should be the first ones to leave. Let the poor people stay here and actually try and save a planet because we have no other choice.
Who knows, man?
Well, that's it for our show today. I am Matt, signing off for the Nerd Talk podcast brought to you by the Digital Worm. And I'm here with my good buddy and co-host, John. And next week we'll have 10 more topics to talk about, have fun and discuss, and just in general have a good time. And you can catch this on YouTube every week. You guys take care. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.